You ever take a job because you're desperate, because bills stack higher than pride, and survival outweighs logic? That was me. When I got the night shift job at Rosebud coal mine in rural Montana, I didn't ask questions. It paid well. Too well. But I should have known. A place buried deep in the earth, untouched by light, doesn't just hide coal. It hides secrets. And at Rosebud, there are rules. Not just company policies, no. These are different. You break them, and something down there notices. Something ancient. Something awake. I started working at Rosebud coal mine on a Tuesday evening. The HR guy, a jittery man in a faded company vest, barely looked at me as he handed over the key card, a tattered employee handbook, and a folded sheet of paper titled Night Shift Protocol, strongly enforced. That title alone should have sent me running. But desperation has a funny way of dulling your instincts. The mine was buried in the middle of nowhere, miles off the main road, swallowed by Montana's rolling black hills. The structure itself looked like something from a ghost story. Rusted metal gates, a weather-beaten control shack, and a conveyor belt that hadn't moved in decades. The kind of place where your breath echoes and shadows linger too long. The night shift started at 10 p.m. sharp and ended at 6 a.m. 8 hours alone underground, watching machinery that supposedly didn't even run anymore. When I asked why a non-operational mine needed security, they told me, it's cheaper than dealing with lawsuits if someone gets hurt trespassing. That seemed plausible. But when I asked about the rules, the HR guy's hands trembled slightly as he said, just follow them, no matter what. I should have walked out right then. My first descent into the mine felt like being swallowed whole. The freight elevator rattled and moaned as it dropped me nearly 800 feet below the surface. The air grew colder, damper, like the earth was slowly pressing in from all sides. The lights flickered overhead, casting long shadows across rusted tracks and forgotten equipment. The control room was a small enclosure halfway down the tunnel, walls lined with old monitors and static-filled radios. That's where I found a second copy of the rules, taped to the wall, yellowed with age. Night Shift Protocol, Rosebud Coal Mine. 1. Always begin your shift by locking the elevator gate from the inside. 2. Do not leave the control room between 2:03 a.m. and 3:17 a.m. 3. If you hear tapping on the walls, do not respond. 4. If the lights go out, close your eyes and count to 30. Do not open them early. 5. At exactly 4:44 a.m., check monitor 6. If it shows static, everything is fine. If it shows anything else, do not move until sunrise. There was a sixth rule, but it had been scratched out violently, almost shredded from the paper. I ran my fingers over the torn edge, a cold unease settling in my stomach. I thought it was a joke at first, some hazing ritual to scare the new guy. But the longer I spent down there, the more I realized no one was laughing. The first few hours of that shift were uneventful. I checked the monitors, logged equipment readings, even though none of the machines worked, and walked the main tunnel with a flashlight that flickered every 10 seconds. The silence was suffocating. No wind. No animals, no drips of water, just the hollow, metallic hum of emptiness. At 1:45 a.m., I returned to the control room and sat in the creaking chair, waiting for 2:03. I didn't expect anything. I had my thermos of coffee, a mystery novel in my bag, and my phone, though there was no signal this far underground. When 2:03 hit, I glanced at the clock and decided to play along with the weird rule. I stayed put. Then the tapping started. Soft at first, like someone tapping a single finger against a metal tunnel wall. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. It came from the right side of the tunnel, deep in the dark where my flashlight beam didn't reach. I swallowed hard. My rational brain screamed it was just the building settling. But the tapping continued, slow and deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Then it moved closer. I remembered Rule 3. Do not respond. So I didn't. I sat, unmoving, heart hammering, as the tapping grew louder, sharper like fingernails now. It circled the control room from outside, then stopped, right by the door. Silence. Then something whispered my name. I jerked upright, knocking over the chair. I hadn't told anyone down here my name, not even the HR guy, and yet it whispered again, slow and rasping, as though spoken through dust-choked lungs. Connor. I backed away from the door and pressed my back against the far wall, clutching my flashlight like a weapon. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. The clock ticked to 3:18 a.m., and I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. The rest of the shift passed without incident. At 4:44 a.m., I stared at monitor 6, hands trembling. Static. Just static. Relief nearly made me collapse. When the elevator took me back to the surface at 6 a.m., I staggered out into the morning light like a prisoner seeing daylight for the first time. I didn't say anything to the day shift guy. What could I say? Hey, something tapped on the wall and whispered my name. He'd laugh me out of the mine. But that next night, I came back. I don't know why. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was pride. Or maybe, deep down, I needed to understand what this place really was. The second night started similarly. Same descent, same flickering lights, same cursed rules taped to the wall. But this time, there was something different on the scratched-out 6th rule. Someone, or something, had written 3 shaky words in black ink across the tear. Don't trust her. I stared at the words, my breath fogging in the cold air. Don't trust who? That night, I tried to distract myself by inspecting deeper parts of the tunnel. There were collapsed sections, old rail tracks that led to sealed shafts, and rusting mining carts still filled with blackened rocks. At one point, I thought I saw movement down a side shaft, just a flicker like someone ducking around the corner. But when I shined the light, there was nothing. At 2:03 a.m., I again locked myself in the control room. And again, the tapping came. But this time it wasn't outside. It started behind me, inside the control room. Tap, tap, tap. My spine stiffened as the air grew heavier, colder. I turned slowly. The wall was empty. Then, the old speaker radio on the desk crackled, something it hadn't done the night before. Connor. My name again. But this time, it was a woman's voice. Calm. Sad. Help me. I reached for the radio, but it went dead. Static. At 4:44 a.m., monitor 6 showed static once again. But for a brief second, as I looked away and back, I thought I saw a face. Pale, hollow-eyed, gone in a blink. When I returned to the surface, I confronted the HR guy. Hey, I said, who else is working nights down there? He blinked. No one. You're the only one on night shift. Then who's on the radio? I pressed. Who wrote the message on the rule sheet? He stared at me for a long moment, then said in a low voice, I'd keep your head down, Connor. Don't go looking for answers you won't want. He turned and walked away. That was 2 days ago. Now on my 3rd shift, the 6th rule is completely gone, ripped clean from the wall. But I remember those words. Don't trust her. Only now, She's talking to me more often. And I'm starting to think she's not trapped in the mine. I think she's the mine. She's not just a voice on a radio anymore. She's in the walls, in the shadows, in the silence between heartbeats. I came back to Rosebud thinking I could make it through another night. Just one more shift. But the deeper I go, the more the mind changes. The walls breathe. The rules twist. And now I'm not even sure I ever left at all. I returned to Rosebud Coal Mine for my third night shift with a mix of dread and disbelief. The rules were now missing from the wall in the control room. Not torn, not defaced, just gone. Like they'd never existed. Even the thumbtacks that held them in place had vanished. The control room felt colder that night. Not just temperature-wise, but in presence, like I wasn't alone. The radio sat quiet on the desk, but it hummed faintly, like it was holding its breath, waiting. I sat down, rubbing my temples, trying to make sense of it all. The voice, hers, hadn't come from nowhere. The tapping hadn't been in my head. And now, whatever "don't trust her" meant, it wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. I told myself I'd follow the rules again. Even if I couldn't see them, I remembered them. Lock the elevator. Stay in the control room from 2:03 to 3:17. Don't respond to tapping. Close your eyes if the lights go out. Check monitor 6 at 4:44. Do not move if it's anything but static. But that night, the mind decided to rewrite the rules. It started early, around midnight. I was walking the north shaft, flashlight scanning the rusted walls, when I heard breathing. Not my own. Heavy, shallow, inhaled through rotting lungs. I froze and slowly turned my light. Nothing. I turned to head back, and that's when I saw it, no her. A figure stood about 20 feet away, just beyond the edge of my flashlight. Pale skin, hair matted with coal dust. Her eyes glowed faintly, not with light, but with emptiness. Her mouth was open, lips unmoving, and yet I heard her voice clearly in my mind. "Connor, don't leave me." I bolted back to the control room. The elevator gate was locked. I checked it twice. The control room door slammed shut behind me without wind. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just waited for 2:03, and it came, right on time. The tapping was back, but this time it wasn't random. It had rhythm, a pattern. I realized with a sickening twist of my stomach. It was Morse code. I hadn't studied it in years, but a few of the longer sequences were unmistakable. Over and over again, the same sequence repeated. S, A, V, E, M, E. Save me. The air in the room thickened, heavy with despair. I closed my eyes, clenched my jaw. Rule 3, do not respond. But I wanted to. God, I wanted to. Every instinct screamed to open the door, to follow the tapping, to find her, whoever she was. But then I remembered the voice from the second night. Don't trust her. And I didn't. At 3:18, the tapping stopped. Silence returned, but it didn't feel like a relief. It felt like a retreat, like she was letting me catch my breath before the next wave. Around 4 a.m., I noticed something new. Monitor 4, which had always been dark before, flickered to life. Static at first, then motion. The camera showed a shaft I didn't recognize. Wood beams rotted with age. Tools strewn across the floor. In the far back, just barely visible, was a door. It shouldn't have been there. Rosebud wasn't mapped like that. Every shaft had been surveyed and sealed decades ago. Yet there it was, the door. Around the frame were claw marks, scratches, words carved into the timber so violently it split in places. I leaned in to read the feed. The carving spelled out, "She lives behind the door. Do not open." And beneath it, the second line, newer, scratched more recently. Or maybe, she's already out. I reeled back from the monitor. The lights flickered, then went out. Complete darkness swallowed the control room. I dropped my flashlight trying to find it and remembered Rule 4. If the lights go out, close your eyes and count to 30. Do not open them early. I squeezed my eyes shut. My mouth moved silently as I counted. 1, 2, 3. The air shifted. Cold fingers brushed against my cheek. A faint whisper moved past my ear. Closer now. 17, 19. A distant dragging sound echoed from the hallway outside the control room. Something was crawling. 27, 28. Almost time, Connor. I stopped counting. I couldn't remember what number I was on. My breath hitched. 30. I opened my eyes. The lights were back. The radio crackled softly on the desk. Nothing in the room. No sign of movement. But the floor had a smear of dark sludge trailing in from under the door. I didn't clean it up. At 4:44, I stared at monitor 6 again, dreading what might appear. But it was just static. I thought I was safe. But just before sunrise, as I waited for the elevator to return me to the surface, the emergency phone in the shaft rang. It had never rung before. I didn't even know it worked. My hand trembled as I picked it up. There was no voice, just breathing, labored, ragged, and then the same whispering voice from the walls, soft and coaxing. Come to the door, Connor. You need to see what's behind it. I slammed the phone down. When I got to the surface, I didn't go home. I didn't sleep. I drove straight to the county records office. I told the clerk I was researching a mine. She looked at me with tired eyes and said, "You're not the first." She pulled a dusty folder from the archives. Inside were blueprints, original drafts of Rosebud coal mine before parts of it were sealed off in 1961. That's when I saw it. There had once been an H shaft, far deeper than any of the others, labeled simply Sublevel H. And at the bottom, Door 12. No other notes, no history, no explanation. I asked what happened to it. The clerk hesitated, then said, "They buried that part. Said it was unstable. A collapse, I think. Miners died. Lots of them. They sealed it and made everyone swear never to open it again." I asked how many died. She looked down. Officially, 8. Unofficially, she leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. More than 40. Some of them weren't recovered. The next night, I found a note on the control room desk. Typed, no name, just a message. She lies, but sometimes she tells the truth too. Trust nothing, especially yourself. The mine groaned around me. The elevator shaft creaked, even though no one was using it. And somewhere in the tunnels beyond the camera range, I heard that voice again. This time, it didn't say my name. It said someone else's. Michael. I don't know who that is, but I think I'm going to find out. They warned me not to talk to her, not to listen. But last night, she whispered a name I've never said out loud. A name buried in the dark past of this mine. And now, he's whispering back. The rules are changing. The shadows are deeper. And I think I've just uncovered what happened to the man who broke every single one. The name wouldn't leave my head. Michael. The voice, her voice, had said it with a strange fondness. Like she knew him, or remembered him. By the 4th night, I wasn't sleeping anymore. I spent the day scouring internet forums, old Union archives, and scanned obituaries from the 1960s through the early 90s, hoping for something, anything, that would explain who Michael was. And finally, I found it. Michael Ritter, night foreman, Rosebud coal mine, last shift, January 14th, 1983. Presumed dead after going missing underground during a minor tunnel collapse. No body recovered. No rescue attempt ordered. Internal memo simply read, compromised. Sealed for safety. Sealed for safety. No one said a word about door 12. When I arrived for my shift that night, there was something off about the mine. The air felt wrong. Less like air, more like pressure, like being underwater. The shadows cast by my flashlight seemed to ripple along the walls, warping and twisting like they had a mind of their own. The moment I stepped into the control room, my eyes were drawn to the monitors. Monitor 4, again. The one that showed that impossible shaft. The door. But this time it wasn't still. There was movement. I leaned in. A man stood in front of the door, shoulders hunched, helmet covered in grime. He looked like he'd been underground for decades. Filthy coveralls, skin pale and slack like melted wax. He turned slowly, like he felt me watching him, and I saw his face. Eyes sunken. One side of his jaw hung slack, torn like something had tried to chew through it. But he wasn't some ghost or hallucination. He looked real, tangible, solid. A name badge dangled from his chest. Michael Ritter. My stomach dropped. He was alive, after all these years. But then he did something that shook me deeper than anything yet. He lifted his hand and pointed, not at the camera, not at the door, at me. The radio crackled behind me. I spun, expecting static. Instead, it spoke in his voice, a dry, gravelly rasp. Connor, you need to finish what I couldn't. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my thermos with shaking hands and splashed coffee on my boots as I backed away from the screen. Every fiber of my being screamed to run, to get out, to leave the mine and never look back. But then the elevator stopped working. No power, no sound, just a blinking red light on the control panel. Override in effect. I was locked in. I don't remember pacing or screaming. I just remember the time, 2:03 a.m. Right on cue, the tapping started again. But this time, it didn't come from the hallway. It came from inside the control room. Tap, 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 from a supply cabinet. The same cabinet that had always been locked. It rattled slightly, as if something inside was trying to get out. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. Tap, tap, tap. Then a soft voice from within the metal cabinet. Please help me. No, 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 no. Rule 3, do not respond. I backed away and covered my ears. Don't trust her, I whispered to myself. Don't trust her. Don't trust her. At 3:17, the tapping stopped. The cabinet door creaked open on its own. Nothing inside, just my old flashlight, one I thought I'd lost on the second night. And beside it, a folded sheet of paper. I reached in, slowly, and unfolded it with trembling hands. It was a handwritten copy of the rules, but they were different, not just slightly, radically. The new rules. 1. The woman in the walls wants out. 2. The man by the door keeps her in. 3. If you speak to either, they will follow you home. 4. The elevator is no longer safe. 5. There is no outside after 5:55 a.m. 6. Do not look at the mirror behind monitor 6. 7. Michael failed. You can't. I hadn't seen a mirror anywhere near monitor 6, but I never turned around to check either. With growing dread, I stood up and looked behind monitor 6. A mirror. Old. Filthy. Cracked. How had I never noticed it before? And worse, it didn't reflect the room properly. The monitors showed a different feed. My own reflection stood still even as I leaned in. And then it smiled. Not me. It smiled before I did. That wasn't my reflection. I stumbled back, knocking over the chair. When I looked again, the mirror was shattered. The glass lay scattered across the floor, but no sound had come when it broke. No crash, no impact, just broken. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. My breath fogged. Then I heard it again, a dragging sound from the hallway. Someone was coming. The monitors flickered. Michael was gone from the feed. Instead, monitor 1, which had never shown anything but empty shaft, now showed movement. A shadow crawling toward the control room. No, slithering. I locked the door. Then I did something I shouldn't have done. I picked up the radio mic and asked a question. Michael, if you're alive, what do you want from me? There was a long pause, then a reply. Not in his voice, not in hers, but in my own. To finish what I started. The lights flickered. The walls began to pulse, literally breathing. I backed into the corner of the room, heart racing, as all the monitors blinked out, except one. Monitor 8, a camera I'd never seen before. It showed a tunnel made of bone, literal bone, skulls, ribs, spines all woven together like a grotesque cathedral. At the end of that corridor, the door 12, it was wide open, and something was crawling out of it. That morning, I made it to the surface at 6:01 a.m. The sun was shining, but everything looked wrong. The trees were dead. The parking lot was cracked and overgrown. My truck was gone. No birds, no wind, just silence. I turned back to look at the elevator shaft. It wasn't there, just an endless pit. And from the depths, I heard her voice one more time. It's not over, Connor. You're just waking up. I thought I escaped, but the surface was a lie. Empty, dead, twisted. The mind didn't let me out. It moved me. Time doesn't pass right here. The rules don't protect me anymore. Something followed me from door 12. And if I can't stop it, the whole town will vanish like I never existed. The sun was a lie. It shimmered in the sky like a heat mirage, but it gave off no warmth. The trees, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, looked more like blackened husks, gnarled and withered, their bark cracked like burnt flesh. There were no birds, no wind, no insects, no sound except my own shallow breathing, and the echoing voice I now recognized as my own, replaying from nowhere. To finish what I started, I walked the perimeter of the mine's surface entrance in a daze, trying to orient myself. My phone had no signal. My watch spun in place like the hand were trying to escape. I followed the old road, if it could still be called that, toward the town of Colstrip, hoping someone would be there. A mechanic, a local cop, anyone. What I found instead was worse than empty. It was staged. Colstrip was still there, but it had been hollowed out like a movie set. Every building looked intact from the outside, but the interiors were either sealed shut or filled with repeating, nonsensical layouts. Endless hallways that looped in on themselves. Living rooms with no exits. Stores stocked with the same 3 rusted cans on every shelf. At the old gas station, I found a TV stuck on static. The image flickered for a moment, and I swear I saw my own face, wide-eyed, bloodied, whispering something I couldn't hear. The attendance booth had a register filled with dust and a receipt printed with one word over and over. Below, then I saw him, a man in a miner's uniform, familiar, watching me from across the road. He was slouched, just like before, filthy, gaunt. Michael. I ran to him. What the hell is this place? Am I dreaming? Am I dead? He didn't answer, just turned and started walking. I hesitated only a second before following him. I didn't know what else to do. He led me through back alleys and across empty fields, down into a wooded ravine I didn't remember ever existing near Colstrip. There, hidden behind thorn-choked underbrush and rusted fencing, was another entrance to the mine, an emergency shaft I'd never seen before, its gate locked with a thick rusted chain. Michael stopped, looked at me, and then vanished into the shadows, like smoke dispersing in the wind. On the ground where he'd stood was a crowbar, and another folded set of rules. This one was bleeding. The final rules. 1. There is no surface. There is only above the cage. 2. Door 12 leads out, but only for what comes through. 3. Michael is dead. You were never alive here. 4. Do not open the emergency shaft. 5. If you open it, do not go alone. 6. It remembers your name now. 7. Burn this page. I didn't burn the page. I couldn't. My lighter wouldn't spark. And part of me, God help me, wanted to know what was down there. I broke the lock. The gate screamed as I pushed it open. Cold air rushed up from the shaft like the breath of a corpse. And from deep, deep below, I heard something move. Not just one thing, many. I descended, flashlight flickering. The tunnel walls were different here. Not stone and timber, but slick, almost organic, pulsing with veins that glowed faintly red with every step. The deeper I went, the louder the whispering became. Voices I recognized, co-workers, my mother, my own voice, all repeating the same phrase. Let her out. The shaft opened into a chamber unlike anything in the rest of Rosebud. The floor was carved obsidian. The ceiling vanished into darkness. And in the center stood another door. Not door 12. This one was made of flesh. It pulsed, throbbed, moaned with each breath, like it lived. And hanging from its frame were names, etched in bone. Mine was the newest, Connor Price. I staggered back, ball rising in my throat. Something moved in the shadows. Michael's voice rasped behind me. You opened it. I turned, but it wasn't him. It looked like him, for a moment. Then its skin sloughed off like wet paper, and underneath was a creature of sinew and ash, blackened bone and glimmering red eyes, mouth stitched shut with wire. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. It showed me. Visions poured into my mind, blinding, blistering flashes of other workers, other decades, other versions of this mine across parallel realities. 1,000 minds, 1,000 Michaels, all of them failing, and one constant, her, the thing behind door 12. She wasn't some ghost or spirit. She was older than death, a void given form, and I, somehow, was the key. I had opened the final door. My name, spoken by her, made it real, made her real. The creature lunged and vanished before it could touch me. I was alone again. The fleshy door groaned louder, stretching and splitting down the center. And from within came a whisper, not like the others. Gentle, comforting, familiar. My voice. Come home, Connor. I ran, back up the tunnel, back through the shaft, back into the false sunlight. But the surface had changed again. The sky was wrong. A swirling vortex of blood-colored clouds churned where the sun had been. The town was gone. In its place, only the mine, sprawled outward, infinite, shifting, corridors growing from the ground like veins. The air choked with soot and static, and standing at the center, waiting, was her, or at least the shape she chose. A woman with no face, dressed in tattered mining gear, eyes like bottomless pits. She raised her hand and whispered the final rule into my mind. You cannot escape what you were born to free. The ground collapsed beneath me, and I fell, again, into the mine. Only this time, I didn't land on stone. I landed in a hospital bed. Fluorescent lights, machines, beeping monitors. A doctor's face hovered above me. Mr. Price, can you hear me? You've been in a coma for 6 days. We found you unconscious near the mine. You're lucky to be alive. A nurse stood beside him. Her eyes were completely black. She smiled, and in my own voice, she whispered, "One more shift." They told me I was in a coma, that I'd imagined the mine, but I know better. The nurse had no eyes. The shadows follow me even in daylight. And last night, I found the rules taped to my mirror, rewritten again. I didn't escape the mine. I brought it with me, and it's still feeding. They released me from the hospital 3 days ago. Said I'd suffered a neurological episode, possibly a gas leak, maybe trauma, maybe PTSD. No one could explain the blackouts, the scratches on my back, the fact that no one in town remembered calling for help. No ambulance records, no reports, nothing. But I remembered everything. The mine, door 12, the creature that wore Michael's face, the flesh door, her, and worse than the memories was the silence. Because the mind never really lets you go. At first, I thought I was just dealing with nightmares, sleep paralysis, hallucinations from the coma. But things followed me home. The lights in my apartment flickered at exactly 2:03 a.m. Every night. No matter where I went, there was always a radio nearby, always humming softly beneath the static. My voice, whispering things I couldn't remember saying. And then I found the note, taped to my bathroom mirror, scrawled in the same jagged handwriting as the original mine rules. The final shift rules. 1. The mine is not underground anymore. 2. Do not answer if the phone rings after 3:33 a.m. 3. The woman in the mirror is not you. 4. If you hear tapping in the walls, she's trying to remind you. 5. You're still on shift. 6. Do not forget your helmet. 7. You belong to her now. That night, the power went out of my apartment. Completely dark. I tried to leave. The hallway outside my unit stretched on forever. No stairwell, no elevator, no neighbors. Just the same 4 doors looping infinitely. And each time I opened one, I saw a different version of myself. One with no eyes, one screaming silently, one standing still in the shadows, pointing downward, to the mine. I finally collapsed. I don't remember how long I was out. Hours? Days. When I woke up, I was lying on concrete. Not in my apartment. Not even in town. Back in the control room. At Rosebud. Except, it wasn't the Rosebud I knew. Everything was degraded. Organic. Alive. The walls breathed. The monitors wept black liquid. The rules had been carved into my forearm. Fresh, bleeding, branded by something deeper than ink or steel. On the main screen, I watched as the camera slowly panned down a tunnel. One I didn't recognize. And then it stopped at a door. A new one. Door 13. The screen blinked. And then I saw myself, me, standing in front of it, reaching for the handle, and smiling. I screamed, throwing the nearest chair at the monitor. It shattered. The lights flared white. And then I heard her again. Soft. Loving. You did well, Connor. So many came before you, but none opened both doors. I turned. She was standing in the doorway to the control room. No longer faceless. Now she wore my mother's face. Kind. Familiar. Terrifying. She stepped closer. The floor beneath her feet hissed like acid. The cameras buzzed and cracked. "You freed me from there," she whispered, pressing a cold hand to my chest. "Now let's free you from here." I backed away, my voice shaking. "I don't want this." "But you chose this," she said sweetly. "The moment you broke the first rule, the moment you listened, you always belonged to me." The walls groaned, cracked open, and from them emerged the others. Dozens, hundreds, past workers, dead men, forgotten faces, eyes black, skin peeling, each with their own rule etched into their skin, each whispering the same phrase. One more shift. I ran, out into the tunnels, down, deeper, past bones, through ash, under ceilings stitched together with hair and rusted metal. And at the end, I found it. Door 13. It pulsed with light, breathing, alive. And I knew that if I opened it, there would be no coming back. No more comas, no more false escapes. Just truth, raw and infinite. Behind me, she spoke one last time. "Michael failed because he hesitated. Don't fail like him." I reached for the handle and turned it. I woke up again. Different hospital, different town. New name on my bracelet, Jason M. Cross. Different face in the mirror, but the same nurse at the foot of my bed. Same black eyes, same knowing smile. And this time, she said something new. "Welcome back, Foreman. The new shift starts at midnight." So here I am, working again, somewhere deep, beneath reality. Different name, different shell. The mind isn't a place, it's a cycle, a trap, a god. You don't escape it, you just shift roles. If you ever find yourself near Colstrip, Montana, and someone offers you night shift pay that's too good to be true, walk away. Burn the flyer. Forget you ever heard of Rosebud. And if you hear tapping behind your walls after midnight, you're already on shift.